Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, back by popular demand, Jeff Johnson of OkState Illustrated. Jeff, I've had so many compliments from people reaching out, wanting to do another collab. So thank you so much for joining on. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It went well the last time, and look forward to trying to do some things in the future.
Okay, sweet digs behind you, brother. Is that digital or is that real?
Oh, that's definitely digital.
Oh, okay, nice.
Look at the window there. It does not look like that anywhere in the state of Oklahoma right now. We're all
Okay.
sure about that.
Let me give some overall thoughts and let me see what you think in today's day and age of the transfer portal. I'm very excited about this class, but I still don't think you should build your roster around the transfer portal. I think your roster needs to be built around 3 or 4 year players, then fill in your holes with the transfer portal. We saw that year one with Coach Lutz. We're seeing that with Coach Morris now. Now, obviously, Coach Lutz in year one, Coach Morris this year, there's nothing they could do about that. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think year one with Coach Morris, it was really kind of year two with Coach Lutz, but we're seeing some of the faults that come with that.
Yes.
With the basketball team. We wanted offense, went out and got offense, but now having big problems getting guys to play defense the way he wants it to be played. And you're going to get some of that, I think, when you go portal heavy. The football class with Coach Morris coming in, I mean, that whole timeline was so truncated. You had a signing day, like 9 days after he was announced, and 2 days after he was actually formally announced and did the thing with the fans. And then you got, number one, you're still coaching your team at that point up through the AAC Conference Championship game. But even at that point, once they lost and everybody made the right decision, I think that, hey, we said all the way, but in reality, not going to coach the bowl game. Although the rest of the staff did. And so that, you've got the portal looming, less than a month at that point out. Tremendous amount of things you have to do. You got to go through the roster. You just inherited. Figure out who you like. Put a dollar figure to them. I got some criticism early in the process for saying Coach Morris, Raj, the whole staff were going to have a degree of learning curve there, dealing with the P4 portal, dealing with agents. Very few of those North Texas guys had agents until the end of the year, when it was apparent that they were going to be pretty high demand, regardless of whether Morris left or not. Mustamaker, Hawkins, Wyatt Young, those guys were going to be high demand type guys, and got agents. Caleb Hawkins only briefly had an agent and finally decided to do it on his own, just family. And I think that worked out good for him. But, a bit of a learning curve. You're talking about like a $2.5 million NIL or rev share budget at North Texas, basically being almost 10x. And the different things that factor into it, I think the way things went with Mestamaker actually accelerated that to dealing with agents and the money that's involved and all that. That was a trial by fire. I think they thought they could get him for a whole lot less than they did. I said early on, I thought he was going to be a $3 million a year guy in the portal, and about half the message board thought I was nuts. It wound up being quite a bit more than that. So kind of accelerated that learning curve, maybe that right out of the gate. That was the big one, and changed not change the complexion, set the complexion for what the class was ultimately going to be. And getting those three guys, I don't know if we're calling big three or the triplets. So I've kind of called them both. I'd throw Ethan Weslowski, the linebacker, in there too. North Texas had players. That was obvious by the season they had. Those guys, it was obvious to everybody. They've got others that are now a part of the portal class that we're going to be talking about, but kind of setting the tone right out of the gate, getting those guys in the fold, probably helped with a lot of the other North Texas guys that they wanted to be here. You're coming in with 3-4 teammates that are some of the best in the country. That's certainly a draw. And I think a lot of those things came together. As far as there's been some criticism, I guess, and to a point, maybe I've even been there a little bit. Well, you can't bring the entire North Texas roster in.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, that's not what they did.
Yeah.
14, 15, 16 guys, somewhere in that range. There's good players there. Outside of the big 3 or 4 that everybody knows about, there were good players there, and getting them on campus in Stillwater was pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another criticism I've heard too. Let's get all this out of the way before we get into the class. Gavin Freeman, Rodney Fields III, and Wendell Gregory. Should Oklahoma State have made bids and tried to keep those guys?
They did. Obviously it wasn't what those guys were looking to get. Wendell Gregory, in his case, his ask from OSU was pretty big. What he made last year was pretty big. His deal was around $2 million for the 2 years. Now,
wow!
Some of that was
and he was asking for more than that.
No,
okay.
Really was kind of asking just leave it the way it was.
Okay,
and quite frankly, his production didn't really match up to that.
Moneyball.
Now, what OSU actually paid out for the year was considerably less than $1 million for 2 reasons. One, it was backloaded. Performance bonuses and that type of thing that come at the end of the year. And as soon as you say, I'm getting in the portal, the way the contracts were done, at least last year, that kind of cuts everything off. Whatever you were due for the rest of the school year basically stops right there. So you had that at play. Rodney Fields, I think the offer they made him was decent. Now, let me finish up on Wendell. What he wound up getting out of the portal, it was considerably less than $1 million. We'll put it that way. So I think that's a guy, Rodney, for sure, that you would have liked to have. But at the same time, you, as a staff, Coach Morris has to do his evaluations, figure out where these guys fit on an individual basis, where their ask is, what OSU felt like paying. And in some of those cases, it didn't match up. LaDainian Fields, I think, was a huge one. That was a guy that wanted to stay. His cousin Rodney really kind of wanted to stay. But I think specifically with Rodney, and you look at the portal haul they got, they had some specific things they were looking for in a running back. I think Rodney brought some of those things to the table, but not to such a level that they're looking at him and saying, this is a guy we have to have. We can't find another one like him. I think they found 2 or 3 like him. And that's just a judgment call, and that's what those guys get paid for in a lot of respects anymore. It used to be more recruiting based, obviously, rather than the portal, but evaluation's a big part of it, and you've got to get guys you're comfortable with, and Grant Segrin's another one. I think that's a guy you absolutely would have liked to get.
Yes.
And I think in a lot of cases with some of those guys that fall in that category, it'd be nice to have. On the message boards, there was a lot of talk of these guys are all terrible. They just went 1-11. I don't care if any of them come back, and that's an extreme. That's a fan type take on it. But, to a point, there is a point to that. For whatever reason, as a group, they weren't very good. But still, that being said, there were guys you would like to have back. You got some of those back. And I think that first offer, that's kind of the way it is at this point, where you've got guys who are, especially after a coaching change. Coaching change is a different deal than what we had experienced before. Yeah. But guys who are exploring the portal, have an agent in their ear telling them you can get this, you can get that, whatever. That first offer from the school you're currently at is pretty big. And if it hits the numbers you think you've got in your head, or what your agent's telling you can maybe get. Funny story there, kind of an aside, but as this NIL was getting going, Colin Oliver, he had a huge year. What would they have been, 23 or so? Mm-hmm. Absolutely huge year. Signed with Drew Rosenhaus. There aren't a whole lot of agents in the game that people know the guy's name, and that's one of them. That was his guy. And he was seriously considering looking at getting in the portal, see what offers might come. Of course, that was before we had rev share, so it was really, really, truly NIL. And Rosenhaus told him, Colin, you don't have more value anywhere other than Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's where your value is going to be highest. You go somewhere else, USC, or I don't even remember, or if I even knew.
We're undersized, that kind of thing,
Yeah, a quote-unquote name program. He said, nobody in LA knows who Colin Oliver is. So compare that to what you could do here in Stillwater, which that's all changed with the rev share, since it's not necessarily based on name, image, likeness, like it's supposed to say. But that agent or the uncle or dad or whoever the advisor is, steering guys in a good direction is pretty key. And I think in a lot of cases that's not at all what's happening. Agents are thinking about their bag more so than their clients, and you're going to see that every year. And it's just part of the game now. It is what it is. But all in all, I think there were a handful of other guys. Tajay, another guy that you probably like, Demarion Thomas. Now you're going to see him at Houston, and in a lot of cases, I don't think their asks were crazy, but as a cautionary example, Wendell's was about half what he thought it was worth at the end. And I think that comes down to everybody else watched the tape and said he had a couple games where he was really, really good. One of those happened to be against UT Martin. But is the value really there? I mean, is it truly? And with Wendell, I think at some point in his career, it's probably going to be. But so far, what he's shown on tape wouldn't say so.
One thing I think that this organization is doing very well, is going to continue to do, they're going to use modern day analytics to determine what a player is probably going to do in the future instead of what they've done in the past. We saw that with the 2023, 2024 teams where we came into a problem with that. So I say that to say we've already seen discipline and, some restraint in going and getting guys thinking, well, maybe they are going to be asking more. Although they're good players, they're asking more than what they're going to produce on the field. So I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I haven't had a chance to really dig in and talk to those guys much about how they're doing it specifically. I mean, I'm with you in that they've got some analytics approach to it. Is it Moneyball? It kind of depends a little bit on what your definition of Moneyball is. Some of the things that work in baseball don't convert over to football, But as an example, there was a discussion on the boards early on, kind of going back to I thought Mesta Baker would probably be a $3 million dude. And the math is simple but hard. Okay, let's say without that guy, five wins is your projection for next year. And if you can get him, that means 8 wins. How much are those 3 extra wins versus his replacement? Wins above replacement.
Yes.
From the baseball side, if it's $3 million or less to get those extra 3 wins, go spend the money.
Absolutely.
Especially as it worked out, there were some donor money there through the NIL program that OSU implemented right before this portal go around. But what it took to get the guy is probably going to be worth it in the end. I don't know that OSU Athletics has calculated what's the value in any single given win in a season, but it's got to be up there. Those are just made up numbers. I don't know if OSU would have been a 5-win team without Mesta Baker. But there's a way that somebody smarter than me probably, but can figure some of those things out and lay out a blueprint. Because so far they haven't been time to sit down and do anything. They've been slammed since the day they took the job. But a big part of what they do is they tier players.
Yes.
So
100%.
You go out and look at everybody that's available in the portal. You've got your top 10% or 5% or whatever at each position. So it's not across the board. And then you've got tiers in there. And if you can get your tier 2 guy target at running back, but you've got 5 or 6 in that group that are pretty equal. Individuals will have things they do better, but in that same group of people you're looking at, and one's asking $100,000 a year more than you think he's worth, well, go to the next one and get him on board and roll on down. And I think that's pretty accurate in just a really general way of how they went about it this year.
Yep. That's the Moneyball aspect that I've been talking about a lot lately, is that, there's not very many superstars, not very many 5-star guys in that tier, but there is a whole bunch of 3-star type tiered guys. That's where most guys are at. So if you think a guy on the margins is asking for too much money, that's where you have to show the discipline. That's where you have to show the restraint. Even if you like the guy, move on to the next 3-star, and because there's so many really good players at that tier out there. So that transitions us into the finances at Oklahoma State. So take us through where Oklahoma State's at financially, and is this university in a place to be able to compete for championships from a financial position?
It depends a little bit on some things I don't know. Big one being there was unused money, rev share money last year, about $1 million in the end. And then, like the example with Wendell Gregory, you had some forfeitures there where money was budgeted. Some of the guys who opted out, after 4 games, went into the portal. Those deals stopped right then, especially for any of the guys. Demarion Thomas opted out to save a red shirt, and at this point, that's a business decision, and I can't fault a guy for that. If you've only got 1 year left, 2 years left, and you have the option right after a coaching change to say, I'm going to save that red shirt, but still show up and practice. That guy did every day, all season long. I got no problem with that guy. Then you have a Noah McKinney, different example, who talked the talk real good, and that talk was not backed up at all. But anyway, a lot of those deals stopped. So on top of the unused roughly $1 million, there was about another million and a half on top of that. Then the Posse Excellence Fund, that was a big hurdle last year, and that is basically the $2.5 million per year, per school year, to cover the extra scholarships. So baseball, wrestling, football actually too. You got 20 extra there. But across all sports, that comes right off the top, where it did this year. So you take that this year to be $20.5 million, which is allowable rev share. So if you don't have the Posse Excellence Fund, or it's not yet funded to the point that it covers all those, that comes right off the top. So you're down at $18 million for all sports, and then football is going to be about 70% of that. But if you get that $2.5 million funded, then that raises all boats basically. Because you're no longer paying for that out of the rev share portion. You're having that funded by donors. And big step. And I don't know where things are. I know they've had good response to it, and that may well have happened. But I don't know that, so I can't tell you that sitting right here today. But it will get done. I'd put it that way. So that puts you back definitely in terms of just rev share. So you got to separate rev share and NIL, and is it true NIL and all that, which is a whole different deal. But you get that $2.5 million funded to where it's not coming right off the top. That puts OSU for sure competitive in the Big 12. Then we go forward to Mestebanker is the only one I know of for sure that got a separate NIL deal on top of rev share. I'm sure some other guys did, but not anywhere in the same stratosphere money wise.
So are the schools setting up the NIL deals?
No, it can come in-house now. That's kind of changed. It still does have to go through the clearinghouse. It still does have to have, legitimacy to it. And, with Mestebanker, quarterback one at a P4 school, that's not too tough of a hurdle. That guy can make people money.
Absolutely.
Doing appearances, commercials, that type of stuff. But the big thing for OSU is, all the things that went down with Mike. There was a lot of talk of, now there's donor money on the sidelines. That was absolutely true.
Yeah, 100%.
I certainly won't go into the names, but I know some of the names.
I know all who you're talking about.
After the 2024 season, some of the things that were said, some of the things that weren't said early on when I got into this business, that you can be the biggest a-hole on the planet as the head coach, so long as you win.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going there with Mike. And unfortunately, I think I'm about to lose my battery. I don't have very much battery here. That certainly played into it.
Okay, let's get into some overall thoughts on this year's transfer portal class. Of course, it's highlighted by all the UNT guys, but the philosophies on defense, the things that you see that Coach Morris and Coach Cassidy and all the coaches are bringing in, and your overall thoughts on the philosophies of the class and the class itself.
I think you saw a lot of the P4 guys. So, quote-unquote, big name guys come in, and then you look at production, and there isn't a whole lot there. There are definitely some exceptions to that, but, a handful of tackles or didn't play. So that's part of it, though. Kenyatta Wright told me a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, fans think that you can put a team together. And of course, I wish you had to go real heavy in the portal last year as well, just with a bunch of P4 rejects, and it doesn't work that way. Just because they're coming from a P4 school doesn't mean they can play. Moran Horn's a great example. You just mentioned him. That's a guy that got hurt and then possibly portal recruited over. But his lack of production this year had to do with he wasn't the number one guy. And being that it is Texas Tech, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean he can't come to Stillwater and be highly productive. He just didn't have the opportunity. And, was the injury still a factor going into the start of this year? I don't know. So I think there's some of that, again, going back to the Moneyball, the war type stuff of where's a guy undervalued. Injuries were a factor with P4 guys. A lot of cases, Jacob Sexton from Oklahoma. That's a guy who's been highly productive at OU, but has battled some injury bugs and may still. But they're doing their research on that. They're finding out is he healthy? Is he 100%? Can he be what he was before? So you factor that, and then you go out and I think a lot of the G5 type guys are pretty interesting. Big that's where this staff came from. They're going to have a little more familiarity maybe with that level, and know some guys that are underrated, undervalued. Don't know what their asking price is. And then at the end of the day, when you're filling 60-some roster spots, there's going to be some reaches. There's going to be some guys that are fillers. Yeah. But I think Jack Puckett, Central, that's a guy I want to see what he can do at this level.
No, that's not Jack Puckett. That's Jack freaking Puckett, man.
There you go. But the guy's been super, super productive at that lower level.
Bodie's that way too.
And we've seen it translate with some guys. Leon Johnson a couple years ago. That was one on the message boards. That was fun. We seriously just took a D3 dude. And as it turned out, he wound up being pretty good and was pretty important to have that year. So at the fan or analyst side, you don't know. We're looking at the same thing as everybody else, and some guys are going to work, some guys won't. But then again, some guys are coming for a scholarship, and that's it. A lot of people don't necessarily realize that there are guys that their rev share is the same old scholarship everybody got before. It's still a full ride. It's still a pretty good deal. But, and I don't know what that number was or will be, but probably in the neighborhood of 15, 20 guys. A lot of your specialists are probably going to be scholarship-only guys, which, of course, frees up more, basically, rev share, basically a revenue cap or salary cap. But those guys are important, too. There's a reason you don't see a 53-man roster with a practice and taxi squad like you do in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
The paradigm hasn't changed that much that you can, and people have pitched it. They're like, well, the NFL does it. Why didn't college football just go to like a 60-man roster and, have some walk-ons? I don't know if it's even legal, but I know college football coaches would not be excited about it if somebody came in and said, you only get to have 60 guys on your roster in a given year. That wouldn't go very well.
Yeah.
So you have to fill all those spots, and when you have a mass exodus, which happens after coaching changes, you're going to have a big portal class, and not every one of those guys is going to work. Zaquan Patterson was the highest rated guy in the class last year, and he couldn't get on the field because he didn't care to.
Yeah, right.
Didn't care enough to show up and do things.
Somebody else's problem.
Yeah. And real quickly found out that all that money that went his way went away real fast. When you don't care enough to put effort into it, why are we going to pay you?
Yeah.
And those guys get gone pretty fast.
So let's get into some of the positions. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball. In the secondary, a lot of projectable guys like Vincent Holmes coming in from the University of Washington, a guy that was a former four-star, Marion Horn, who got injured last year. So he kind of got buried on the depth chart before he got to make his mark and get into a rotation. The young man from Vanderbilt, the name's slipping my mind right now. There's so many guys. It's hard to remember all the names, but let's get into the secondary and tell us what you think about that part of the transfer portal class.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm going to say outside of the 3, 4, 5 top North Texas guys, I'm going to say Fields was the biggest get in the portal.
Yes, good point.
It's not really a get because you didn't pull him out but you kept him out of the portal. And there were some times there, maybe a week into the portal, that I was hearing from sources elsewhere that, it looks like he's probably going to jump in. And that just comes down to, does the money match what you think you're worth, what your agent thinks you're worth, all that type of stuff. It just goes into it. But there was a time where it wasn't certain that he was not going to get in the portal. And as we saw, very few of those guys that get in wound up coming back. And that's not unique to the staff or OSU. So I think Bladanian and Horn probably are the two kind of high expectations portion of the defensive back group. And again, you've got guys who had the pedigree as recruits maybe, but haven't shown the production. Sometimes a change of scenery is beneficial there. Works really well. A different coach, different coaching staff, different we're talking secondary here, different defensive philosophy can bring some things out with guys that they hadn't shown before, and that's what you're hoping for. And it's kind of an aside here, but the big thing I'm sure about with this staff is whatever guys they got. So let's say before the portal even opened, not knowing anything about it, they can coach. I mean, that's clear from watching them. It's clear that it's important to them. As a staff from Eric Morris on down, being football coaches and coaching, teaching the game matters to those guys, and that shows up on the field. And, I think Saban said it recently and a few others, all the changes that are here with the portal, NIL and all that, at the end of the day, you still have to coach football. And you have guys that want to be coached, that love to play the game. And I think that's part of what they went out and looked for kind of in general anyway. But I'd say Horn and Fields are the two that really stand out. Those are guys you expect to be top of the depth chart. Mose is another guy who does have some production. It just wasn't, kind of like Horn. Wasn't necessarily this last year, but some production that's there that you can lean on and say, okay, he's done it before. And obviously if you're taking him, you're saying with a guy like that, and this is going to apply to a whole bunch of different position groups, but there you can say he's done it before, so he can do it again. Probably. There's some injury issues the play in with Horn, for example, but some production there to point to say, okay, we know he can do it at this level. Let's get him here and get him back to this level.
Defensive line's an interesting group. It's guys that have a little bit of versatility. Also, a couple of guys that are really good edge pass rushers, maybe need to do a little bit of work on the run game. But guys with versatility, guys with specific skills, good size. I think this is an exciting group.
Yeah, James Williams is one that's intriguing to me because as a pass rush specialist, there's absolutely production there. But as if they're running right at him, it's like, what's happening here? So if they can get something else out of that guy, it could be a fantastic pickup. Jaleel, I think, is big. You know, I did a piece where I just said this was right after Morris was hired, knowing there was going to be portal losses. 10 guys on both sides of the ball that you need to get back. Fields, I think, was number 2 on my defensive list, and Jaleel was like 4. So that's a big one. I'm going to throw one out to you since we're on defensive line that maybe a lot of people don't know about, but Amon Oates probably
is he back
for another year. He is filed for an injunction.
Big boy can eat, man. I love Hyman. He's awesome. I love Hyman.
Yeah, he is filed for an injuction based on his 2 years at NEO.
I did not know that.
Guys have gotten years back, and I have not heard any updates since I heard that about the same time the portal opened.
Sweet.
But I can tell you, he's in the pictures they posted from off-season workouts.
I did see that, but I didn't run with it because I was like, I wasn't quite sure.
That's the story. So I don't know if where things stand legally. We do know, just generally speaking, looking back, the JUCO guys have generally been pretty successful, at least getting 1 year back.
Yeah.
You know,
got one back in baseball that was big.
Yeah.
Brigham.
And so that one's there, and that's a stealth get back and gives you, I think, with those two coming back, Jaleel and Iman, a really solid base of dudes that are in Stillwater that can produce at this level, and you surrounded them with a lot of talent. Yeah, and I think some of the P4s. And there are so many names I can't recall them all. There's a handful that coming from Penn State. He was there a year, redshirted. You really don't know anything about that guy at this point. Which was kind of the Wendell Gregory story a little bit coming out of South Carolina. He played some as a freshman, but not a whole lot. And those guys, they're especially the younger, redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore. Some of those guys are going to work really well, and the coaching staff probably has a lot better idea than I do which ones of those are most likely. But so a decent mix there of some young guys from P4 schools, some older guys who've maybe had some production in the past, or in the case of Williams, kind of got a big hole in his game. Mm-hmm. But that being said, dudes in the NFL that are third round down pass rush specialists make a lot of money. So, if you can't get him to be a run defender, well, then you've got a dude who's pretty good on the edge getting the quarterbacks in those situations.
Hey, let's move to linebacker. Maybe this is just me not knowing exactly all of the different guys on the team or the different skills, but talk about the linebacker spot. It doesn't seem to be real deep for this class for OSU.
Yeah, dude from UCLA. He's probably one of the more productive P4 guys they brought in.
Yeah.
As far as a career last year, no big concerns there, injuries or whatever. Wazlowski, I think's a big get there.
There you go.
Yeah, just kind of anchor the defense and build around him, and then across the board, it's kind of like we've talked about. There are some guys who have credentials, but also have questions. And, again, I keep harping on it, but with that many guys, you're going to have some who don't come in and do anything. You're going to have some who come in and far exceed the expectations over what you had when you took them.
All right, let's move to the offensive side of the ball. I wanted to start on defense because I know that's probably the side of the ball that the fans know the least in terms of the players coming in. We know about the Wyatt Youngs, the Caleb Hawkinses, the Drew Mestamakers. So I wanted to start on defense, but let's move to offense now. Let's start up front. No doubt with the offensive lineman, Jacob Sexton coming in from OU, a guy that just needs to stay healthy. Ashton Lepo, 6'7". So a really talented, kind of an interesting, in the center, Mercer coming in from KU, an interesting group. I think a group that fits very well.
Yeah, that's one that definitely stands out. Tyler Mercer, I actually hit our Kansas guy up, John Kirby, and said, what can you tell me about this guy? He goes, I don't know. I never saw him. And turns out as we dug into it a little bit more, the plan had been, I don't know the guy's name, but their center last year was pretty good. And the plan had been for him to redshirt and then take over next year. And, of course, he went to Stillwater instead to get back with Aaron Morris after spending 2024 at North Texas. But so that tells me the guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
They apparently the Kansas staff was not real happy about losing him because that was their plan, was that he was going to be the guy, and he's going to need to be the guy because you really don't have these center types coming back.
Yeah.
Jacoby Sanders probably being the one that played the most.
Yeah.
Stillwater boy.
Right guard. Yeah. Took the place of Noah McKinney.
Yes, he did.
That made me very happy, by the way. And had a really good week that week.
Yes, he did. And, Stillwater boy, and I don't think that guy was going anywhere. But you've got some pieces there. Miguel Chavez, for example, young guys, and it's changed a little bit over the years. But still, if those guys are having to play as true freshmen, redshirt sophomores even, you potentially got problems unless it's a Russell Okung or something like that that's just a different level player. But some of the ones they were able to retain from last year were guys who actually didn't play a whole lot. Jacoby, I think, by far played the most of the guys that are coming back. But you've got some pieces there to work with that were already on campus.
Yeah. Let's move to the H-backs. You probably won't want to comment on this. Do you have any clue what happened with the Josh Ford situation?
Yeah, just the real simple answer was he got called out in front of the team or the offense, or maybe it's just his position group. I don't know specifically that, but this is what Charlie Johnson was alluding to on X. And more or less manhood challenged, because he made that business decision to opt out and take his red shirt. Initially, the plan was to do it Demarion Thomas style and, take the red shirt, but continue practicing and all that. Kind of had his manhood challenged. It didn't go especially well from there, and at the end of the day, felt like he needed to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a tough loss. Now, that's a guy I think's probably going to be a tackle.
Oh, really? You don't think he's going to be an H-back at Alabama? Okay.
I bet you he winds up at tackle.
Okay.
And if not at Alabama, in the NFL. That would be my guess. And I think he's got that kind of potential too. A guy you're getting back, as far as I know, he is still on the roster, Oscar Hammond. He's technically a North Texas guy, but he was actually an OSU guy most recently. That was expected to be the pass-catching H-back, cowboy back, whatever you want to call it, this last year, and was hurt, lost the whole year. And as far as I know, is getting it back. And any more medical red shirts are basically rubber stamped.
Yeah.
You had a legitimate injury, couldn't play the majority of the season. They say, okay, it used to be you had to wait till the end of your career.
Right.
Hammond's actually there in his case, but it's not that way anymore. So that's another guy that is already here, and assuming he gets back healthy, is a guy that has experience in the system. And again, that was the expectation and it would have been him and Ford, in 2025 for OSU, but he's a bigger threat as a pass catcher, more natural receiver, put it that way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the headline potentially for me, assuming he's healthy.
Yeah. How about Donovan Green? What are your thoughts on him, young man?
Donovan Green is one of those classic guys that we've talked about.
How athletic is he? I couldn't tell just based on all the film I watched.
He it looks more like a Josh Ford to me than
me too. Yeah.
Well, he's kind of the same size as like a Brandon Pettigrew, but I don't think he's
that athletic and dynamic, though. Do you?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The size is pretty similar. The pedigree's pretty solid, just not a whole lot of production to back it up. But then again, if you're bringing him in, to mainly be a tight end, H-back, inside receiver, the big version of that we've seen over the years, then, but more as a blocker than anything, then I think you're just fine. You definitely got a big dude who can move people around.
Yep. I'm telling you, don't sleep on Bodie Boydston. This young man, I know he came from 8-man OBA and Enid. I know he came from Division II SWAZU. I know it's a huge jump. But I know the kid. I know coaches who coached the kid. I know what he's made out of. And I also know that sometimes all you need is a chance, and he has a big frame. He's going to outwork people, and he has good hands. He's tougher than hell. Bodie Boydston is an OSU story to me, so I'm excited about him.
Yeah, and I saw your breakdown on him, and the Badgema comparison works for me there. Big dude, but fairly athletic. And as far as the D2 stuff, I think this is going to change and become even a stronger trend.
Yes.
And that is when you work back to recruiting and how much things have changed at the high school level and how fewer opportunities there are and have been ever since COVID.
Especially for an 8-man guy.
Oh, yeah. That there are dudes in D2, D3, FCS who absolutely belong on P4 rosters, but for whatever reason, they were overlooked out of high school. They played 8-man, whatever it might be. And, I think as things go forward, assuming things don't change a whole bunch in the next couple of years, I think that's a trend you're going to consistently see. And that's because coming out of high schools, that may not be the dude who was a quarterback in 8-man. That may be a lot of guys across the country who just don't have the opportunities that were there just a few years ago. Just fewer guys getting signed to FBS, period, because of the portal and everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. And to me, Bodie and Jack Puckett will be some of the more interesting guys to watch.
Absolutely.
Just to see can they step up their game, which has been pretty good. But you're not just going up a level; you're really going up two. But ball don't lie at some level.
No doubt. Jack physically Puckett.
if they have the capability of doing it, I don't know why you would necessarily expect them to not produce at the same level.
It will definitely be a jump.
Competition all around definitely got tougher, but
no doubt.
Okay, receiver, obviously a very exciting crew. You got Justin Bowick, the big guy outside. You got guys like Rodney Harris the third. You've got really fast guys like Chris Barnes, Miles Coleman, and then obviously Wyatt Young. So talk about the receivers and how exciting they are.
Yeah, I think Bowick's the guy you look at as the bell cow. Marcel Aitman, maybe a comparison there.
Yes.
Not a James Washington Blackman type necessarily, but actually probably more of a go-to type receiver than you had last year or the year before. As far as a big target, I think Young's going to be that guy that's the primary target. Coleman's another one that's interesting. Has made for some great jokes. Not talking about Miles himself, but just the overall trend, especially before you got into like Bowick and some of those guys that actually had a little size, we're going to have the orange Smurfs in Stillwater. There's a bunch of 5'6", 5'7", 5'8" dudes. A lot of them 150 pounds. Coleman, I think, listed at 5'8", 150, 160.
Who do you think's quicker, him or Barnes?
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably him.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
It's a little hard to say without watching a whole bunch of tape, but they're both quick.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it has something to do with it. That's the type of player he was, the undersized, angry elf, as Mike Leach called him, but a little dude who excels finding finding open ground in space, and it's proven over a really long time that type of guy can work in the air raid as an inside receiver.
100%.
No question about it. And I think Morris wants to take advantage of that fact, where maybe you're always going to have a size mismatch, but you may have a quickness mismatch that's working in your favor, 100%. Particularly if you can create those matchups.
Okay, running back's a very exciting group, obviously highlighted by the nation's leading rusher last year, Caleb Hawkins, as a freshman. Then also you have Io Adeli, a guy, kind of a little quick guy. You've got William Mason, the young man, big 6'2", 225-pound running back out of Coweta originally, and then from UCO last year. So a very exciting running back group for Oklahoma State here in the transfer portal. Talk about them.
Yeah, Hawkins was a huge get. Unfortunately for him and running backs across the country, as far as the dollar end of it, it's gone kind of the way of the NFL, where those guys used to be some of the highest paid, and you're not seeing that in P4 either. That they're actually one of the lower paid positions. But
really?
In terms of it's
wow.
really pretty surprising as far as everything's tiered there. You've got RB1, but an average running back one at the P4 level last year, not necessarily this year, but that guy's looking at on average probably $750,000.
Wow.
I don't know what number Hawkins had, but it wasn't much higher than that. We'll put it that way. But whatever it was worth what it took to get him here, because I think he's a key part of what made things go. Obviously, Mestemaker and Young were big parts of that with that offense this year, but his ability as a receiver, that's one that's maybe a little bit overlooked. Io Adeli that you mentioned, kind of that jitterbug guy, another one who's done some things, but also has battled some injuries, and then they just kept stacking dudes behind that. You mentioned Fields. I think Hawkins signing had something to do with that.
I agree. I agree.
I think he wanted to be at OSU and had the money worked on both sides. Very well could have stayed, but if you're Rodney Fields and you were the dude this year, and they're bringing in a freshman All-American that led the country, it kind of makes it a little difficult to say. Yeah.
Any concerns here before we get into the rest of Drew Mestemaker for you?
No, I saw the same thing you did that you're talking about there, that the better teams they played were his worst games. Well, on one hand, that's kind of the way it works.
Yeah.
The good teams you play make it more difficult for you. But as far as experience and all that, sure. We could rewind to the Mike Gundy adages of you really need 15 or 18 games or whatever. I don't know that I ever bought into that.
Yeah, sure.
I think a lot of it was Mike had his certain things that he felt certain ways about it, and that was one of them. And we saw a lot of evidence over the years to say, well, no, if it's the right guy, right. And he said that before, but
right.
He like Spencer Sanders, for example, he'd be a guy he would point to and say, see what I'm talking about. After midway through his second year being the starter is when he got really good. Anyway, experience does matter and does help, but Drew and what he did this year, even if you look at it and say, well, the good teams he played, he wasn't as good. He was still pretty good. In those games, and is relatively new to the position as far as playing it. That whole story's been talked about a whole bunch. It's a great story, but to the question you're asking there is, no, he hadn't played the position a whole bunch. Got 14 games experience this year. I think they played at 12. Championship game. Yeah, so 14.
15 total.
Here's the good news. If Coach Morris and his staff did their job right, the dudes surrounding him this year are going to be better than they were last year. So that's going to mitigate it. Plus, you have an off season, spring ball, knowing he's your guy, which they did this year going into the season, I think. Maybe not spring ball, but he was the guy all year. But you still have spring ball. You still got fall camp that you're getting more reps, and knowing Morris and how the guys who, Dana being the big one that had the air raid experience, how they work quarterbacks in practice, you don't worry about quarterback too much,
right.
Period. Much less when you've got a guy who's proven what Drew has.
100%. 100%. Pretty good athlete?
Pretty good athlete. I think he's more of a typical drop back, NFL former. It's not really necessarily.
Does he have a Brandon Whedon arm? Is it that good?
I don't think it's that good, but
okay.
I mean, Whedon literally was up there like Elway category.
Yeah.
As far as what he could really do. Now, Elway probably had one of the strongest arms ever, but with Brandon, that's the level of NFL talent you had on there. And I don't know that Drew necessarily has that, but he's got enough to make all the throws.
Yeah.
And we'll probably get stronger.
I agree. I think he has a better arm than maybe Mason Rudolph. He kind of reminds me of Cornelius. I know Oklahoma State fans. Say it again.
Quite possibly. Compared to Mason, I think that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Zach Robinson will be another one, probably a little better arm overall than Zach had.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, man. This has been a whole lot of fun. I've taken a lot of your time. We've been right at almost an hour. I love getting to catch up with you, Jeff. What a wonderful job that you do over there at OkState Illustrated. Final thoughts here before we let fans know how they can reach all of your content.
Yeah, final thoughts would be it's a giant class. One thing I'll throw out there, if you look at the on-3 ratings versus 24/7, I actually haven't looked at ESPN for the team rankings on the portal. And I haven't looked at any of them recently, but for a good long while, top 5 on 24/7, and you go look for a while on 3, it was a top 10 type class. You look now, I think it was 24. The details on that is what our rankings on 3 try to do is it's trying to measure what's outgoing, what you lost to the portal versus what's incoming.
Okay. So overall net positive. Okay.
Net positive, and if you look at the two numbers, there's an overall player rating for average for the incoming and the average. That was always going to shrink. Early on, when you had Mestamaker and then Hawkins and then Young and some other dudes start, that's when it was a top 2, top 3. But the simple fact of the matter was when you're starting to get up in the mid-50s, mid-60s for transfer portal, that number was always going to shrink. So I don't think it's on 3 saying OSU doesn't have a super strong class or one of the best in the country, but if you go through like the 24/7 individual rankings for players at the player level, the top 20, maybe half outgoing OSU guys. Grant Seeger and some of those guys that. So it kind of shows up there. Then you go back and look at on 3 and think about it that way. Then it kind of starts to make sense of how the algorithm's trying to do it. But regardless of what our ranking is, 24 is still pretty damn good.
I think what I hear you saying is if we just needed, say, 20 to 25 guys, we'd probably be a top 10
Absolutely.
class.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, 24/7 has it as a top 10. I think ESPN probably does, but they're looking at it a little different. Something that's happened in the past with team recruiting and rankings. I know Rivals did it for a long time, and that was basically you just look at the top 20. So, with portal classes, it's maybe a little different, but if you look at it from that perspective, or let's say top 22, so 11 positions, 11 starters, if you look at it that way, I think that's where it's showing up as a top 5 class in some rankings. But overall, getting the big 3, getting Mestamaker especially, but Hawkins, Young as well, was such a great start. It was what needed to happen, but wasn't guaranteed. And that kind of set the tone, I think, kind of for the rest of the class. In retrospect, I'm kind of surprised we didn't see him jump in other than those 3 we just mentioned, going after some of those top guys and seeing, hey, can we do something on the NIL side to get some interest from other big-time guys? And that I think probably more than anything is the fact that that's really kind of in development for OSU.
Yeah.
They just launched that program in December, I think. The two Posse Excellence, which is covering the scholarships like we discussed, and then the NIL. I think potentially the money was there, but maybe the setup, the structure to really take that and say, okay, what can we do this year?
Okay,
and
cool.
Honestly, I think you blew a fair bit of getting your quarterback, and that's absolutely what you should have done. So it'll be interesting to see if that jumps up going forward, and maybe you see OSU as a bigger player NIL wise. But all things considered, definitely one of the top classes in the Big 12. And quite frankly, it needed to be. If you weren't in the top half of the Big 12, that sounds like trouble to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't do that. Their top half easy.
Yeah.
I think Texas Tech, I think everybody's got them ranked higher. Well, they're playing with Cody Campbell money still here for a while, so we'll see where all that goes. But as far as the portal class overall, I can't really criticize it too much.
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
A lot of P4 dudes, and you look at it and go, well, there's not a lot of production there. But that's kind of the way it works. Unless you're going out and getting a proven starter who's just chasing the bag, you're going to get some of that. And I think they field needs, and then I keep going back to it, but it's absolutely true. Getting those three offensive guys from North Texas who really can't be overstated how important it was to get done. They definitely had some advantages in getting it done, but it wasn't a certainty. Figuring out how to make those deals work will be huge for this team. Going into next year, I think the coaching aspect of it just by itself. So don't factor the portal at all. Just say, let's say this staff coached the 2025 OSU football team. I think they're worth 3 or 4 wins, and I'll back that up a little by saying 3 or 4 on top. And we saw a little bit of it with Clint Bowen and what he did with the defense. Lead to any wins? No, not necessarily, but it highlights how important coaching is. So, I think that puts you in the ballpark of 500 just off the coaching staff, and not factoring at all what they were able to do in the portal. And to me, what they were able to do in the portal jumps that up for 7, 8. I don't think that's out of the question by any means.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
People saying next to Indiana. Well, remember, it did take Sig 2 years to get the national title level, but they saw a pretty big jump in year one. I think OSU's set in line for that. I don't think we're talking about a 1 or 2 win season in 2026. Let's put it that way.
Let's hope not. I don't think I can go through another one of those, Jeff. It was a tough deal.
And coming from where things were, in the Gundy 20 years leading up to the last couple of years, almost 20 years, you wouldn't have expected it, but some things happened.
It did.
And quite frankly, Mike not accepting the portal for what it is and NIL and all that was really the beginning of the end.
It was.
And honestly, I don't think OSU had a great plan to back him up either. But that did change.
Their plan was to trust him.
Well, kind of, yeah.
Tell us what you need, Mike.
Kind of not believing. Well, surely this isn't how it's going to go. Well, it's how it went, and we're dealing with it now. And I think OSU does have a good plan now to back up Coach Forrest. I think he had a good plan coming in for year one, and we will find out starting in September just how well they did it.
100%. Okay, man, tell everybody where they can reach you.
OkStateIllustrated.com, or you can go to on3.com and go to fan sites and just go to the Big 12 or alphabetically and find us there. But long time on Rivals. We got moved over without any say in it, because it was a merger and acquisition type deal where On3 bought Rivals. But so far for us, it's been great. I mean, really has benefited in a lot of ways. Looking to maybe do some things to try and increase some content But overall, real happy with the move.
Jeff Johnson, OkState Illustrated. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks, man.